Okay, it is the fight that everybody's been waiting for women's boxing for quite some time. It's Claressa Shields versus Savannah Marshall in the O2 Arena in London. And this is a fight. I don't really get that excited for women's boxing. There's some fights that are good, but this fight really has a real personal angst to it. I don't know if it's because Claressa Shields lost to Savannah Marshall in the amateurs, but it just feels like a real personal bite to it. And two very accomplished fighters. Obviously, you had Savannah Marshall and Claressa both competed in the Olympics. Claressa has obviously achieved a lot, calling herself obviously the GOAT, the greatest woman of all time. And I think for Savannah, she sort of slowly made her way up and has a very unique style, very powerful. And obviously both fighting at the junior middleweight limit. And I think, yeah, like I said, there's just something about this fight that makes it so interesting. You're looking at what they've both achieved. This is a fight that's been built for quite a while. Again, the amateur thing of Savannah Marshall beating her in the amateurs. There's just so much in this fight, and I'm very excited for it. There's, like I said, the personal angst is there as well, and there's something different. Obviously, the Kate Taylor Amanda Serrano fight was huge for women's boxing, but to me, there's just something different about this one, and a great night of fights actually. Because not just this one, you've also got the Michaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgardner fight as well, which is another excellent fight. It's essentially two main events on one card, which you'd never ever see in boxing, so I do appreciate that, especially. And from a women's point of view, I think it's great that you got, two big female fights headlining the two cards, or headlining the fight night card, and I think that's excellent. But yeah, so going into this fight, I'm going to start off first of all with Claressa Shields in this one, because seeing what she needs to do, because a very skilled fighter, Claressa Shields, and very solid fundamentals all over. I don't think mentally she's really, either of them are inside the other's head, but Claressa is very that's to chat a lot, and I think that can annoy some opponents. I don't think it annoys Savannah, but there is a real mental side to her game, which I think that she uses. And obviously she tried to hand at MMA and didn't really go that great thus far, but I think if she keeps continuing, I wouldn't blame her, because financially the money in MMA is just a bit more than women's boxing, and the level is also higher. But either or, and going into it then, so I think the first thing that I think Claressa needs to do in this fight is stay on the outside. You do not want to go and trade with Savannah Marshall in the inside of the ring, because that is in the pocket, because that really is just asking for trouble. You're essentially begging to be knocked out. Stay on the outside, which I think she will do. She does it most times anyway. I mean, if you can stay on the outside, and goes into my second point about what she should do, pepper the jab. Use that jab constantly. She can't throw her right hand if you're constantly jabbing her, and if you're constantly keeping her at bay. And I think that's something that she's really going to have to use a lot, because Savannah will be looking for that big shot, and whether Claressa feels she has a good chin or not, if she gets hit by it, she's going to feel it. And not something you want to get hit by. I think Savannah has very freakish power for I don't say for a female fight, but female fights traditionally don't have that type of power, but she really hits girls, and you can just see they just completely freeze, and it's actually paralyzing them when she hits them. It is brutal to watch, and really there's something you don't want if you're Claressa. Claressa wants to stay on the outside, be a bit slick, and don't engage her really. And the other thing, the third point I think she needs to do, it's going to sound weird, but be first. Whenever Savannah looks like she's going to load up a combination, hit it with a 1-2, hit it with a jab, just always be the one leading the dance, essentially. Because to me, Savannah's good, but she's slow. She hasn't got the speed to Claressa, and I think that's what's going to help. And it's not like a huge difference, but I think Claressa, the way she throws combinations, it's just not going to be it. It's something that a lot of fighters have. Not a lot of fighters have at that level, and I think Claressa's really going to cause her problems if she can just be first, be the jab. Just out boxer. I don't think she's as slick as she thinks she is, Claressa Shields, but I think she's good enough that I think she could avoid her for a very certain amount of time. And if you just constantly frustrating Savannah, it Because if you can frustrate her, that's where you can see the shots coming easier. And yeah, I think that would be it though. I think for Claressa, I think, like I said, stay on the outside, be first, and just pepper that jab at her. And I don't think she'll be able to cope with it if you can just, especially if you keep at a high pace and tire her out. Because Claressa, there's not much between their opponents, to be honest, but I think Claressa's had a higher level of opponents, to be honest. And yeah, I do think that those are the things that she should do. When it comes then to Savannah Marshall, the first thing she needs to do, she's going to look for that big shot. So the thing to slow Claressa down would be, because Claressa's going to be light on her toes, moving around, go to the body, slow her down. You keep going there. Eventually you come to 6, 7, 8. She's going to start being an easier target. She won't be able to, you go to the body, she'll go down, her hands will go down to protect the body, and then she'll leave her face open. She hasn't got an amazingly slick defense or anything. She's very much, I guess she's good, Claressa, but she's just, it's not like she's impossible to hit. Happens a lot of fights. I said the same thing about Devin Haney. He's a great fighter, but he isn't impossible to hit. You can land shots on him. It's just about how you do it and how you set it up. He's not like, Shakur Stevenson, for example, is impossible to hit. Same with Floyd, he was the same, but not the same with Claressa Shields. I think you can hit her. So I think going to the body is the big one. Again, in the same breath, pin her against the ropes. Don't let her circle the ring, cut the ring off. Don't let her just dictate where the fight is. If you can really force her back, be aggressive, and make her fight your fight, it helps. It makes more sense, I think, if you're Claressa. You don't want to, if you're Savannah, I don't think you want to let her go on the outside. The way Savannah fights in general, she's always coming forward. She can fight off the back foot, but she's not someone who often does that. She always likes to be taking control inside the ring, pushing her opponent back, and I think it works. She'll work here, I think, against Claressa Shields. But if you can, again, if you get against the ropes, you dig her to the body, you take almost a Maidana, Errol Spence type approach where you're being aggressive and really making it dirty and hard for her. And I don't think Claressa will like that. She's never really had somebody who really puts it on her like that. And to fair, neither does Savannah, but I think for Claressa, I think the way Savannah fights, it's a lot more, it'll be more horrible for her if she can do that, I think. And my third point, Savannah has power, like we said, freakish power for someone of her, at her weight and of someone, female fighters, again, not the most powerful, but she has that. And I think what I would say is, you want to land that right hand, you have to set that right hand up. Don't just throw it, set it up. Throw a double jab behind it. So Savannah's got a very good trainer in Peter Fury, obviously the uncle of Tyson Fury, who obviously, you look at Hughie Fury, he's similar. I feel like Savannah's almost what Hughie could be or Peter wants him to be, where she's slick, she's very, very awkward, but she's powerful. Has everything in a bunch, and I think that's something why I feel like he takes so much pride in her. So yeah, I think just set that right hand up. I think if you can just get slow Claressa Shields down and really make her stop running on the ring, control the fight, and if she's tired by about the 9th round, I think it's only a matter of time before you land that shot. And especially the way Savannah fights, they're not quick punches, but she's always coming. She doesn't tire in fights, and I think that would be the one thing that I'd look for Savannah, just to slow her down, put her against the ropes, and set that right hand up, because eventually the shot will come, and you want that to come when she's tired and her body's beaten up. And again, just be more methodical, I think, is my point with it. But yeah, then when we get into my prediction for the fight, I could see Claressa boxing her head off for 12 rounds. I really could. I think Claressa is so skilled, and again, a very good argument to be the greatest woman of all time. She's tough, Claressa. I think she does have that skill where if she gets knocked down, she will come back up and give it back. But she really does. I think skill-wise, I think she's just a little bit ahead of Savannah, but I don't think she's slick enough to avoid her for the entirety of the fight. And I think with Savannah, I do think she'll go to the body. You got Peter Fury in the corner who will give her that game plan. She's very awkward in there, Savannah. She's not easy to fight. She's very slick, and she's not got fast punches, but she is very, very powerful and always coming forward. So I just don't see how Claressa can avoid her power for 12 rounds. So I'm going to say I think Savannah knocks her out. I'll go for a TKO, actually. I won't go for a flat knockout. I think she'll knock her down a few times and eventually the whole point around where she just has an onslaught, throws so many shots at Claressa, and then the referee just jumps in and stops it. I'll say not the later rounds. I think about 9, 10, 11, that sort of time. I think it's when it will come. And I think Claressa, she's a great fighter and she's a great champion. She's achieved a lot, but I feel like she's one of those fighters who won't take the loss well and may complain afterwards. But I just feel that's what will happen. Again, she's very good. I could see Claressa outboxing her for 12 rounds, but I just don't know if she can avoid the power for the whole 12, and that is definitely a big issue for me. And the way Savannah fights, she's not just she doesn't get outboxed for 12 rounds and just lands the right hand like Deontay Wilder does, for example. She sets it up. She's more methodical, more calculated there. And I think that's what happened. I think she will go to the body. I think she'll break Claressa down slowly. And I think Claressa will win the first sort of 3 to 4 rounds, but I think eventually you'll see the tide turning and eventually she'll land that shot which will change the fight. And that's where that killer instinct from Savannah will step in. And I think she'll get it done. And I'd imagine this will be won't just be the only fight. I think they'll have a rematch down the line because these are two very, very big names in the sport of boxing. And in women's boxing, you need a lot of more of these type of fights. Like I said, it's great. You got 2 fights on here which are almost main events in themselves. So yeah, a very good night for women's boxing. But yeah, just my sort of quick preview of the Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall fight. A big fight, women's boxing. I've never been, probably the one women's fight where I've been looking forward to the most. So yeah, a great fight, and I will be doing a review after the fight. So yeah, until next time.